you spoke about listening to NPR for most of your life. I mean, you hail from, and is it actually outside of Chicago? I mean, where?
Yeah, Highland Park. So I grew up in Highland Park, Illinois, which is a suburb outside of Chicago. We called it the Borscht Belt because a lot of like Russian descended Jews lived there. And I remember, I mean, my grandma, Ruth Spero, rest in peace. She, when I was little, I would hang out at her house all the time. And because my mom was teaching piano and my dad was touring with his bands. And so I'd spend a lot of time with my grandma, and she would always have NPR on in the background with whatever was on, all the different types of segments that they did. And it's really just like, it's ingrained into my memories from my childhood, but also just into who I am as a human being.
Well, it sounds like music has been part of your life for the better part of your life. Grandma's teaching, your father's in a band. I mean, talk about what it was like for you coming up and how you came to music.
Well, both my parents are piano players. So when I was like, I mean, before I could function as a human being, I heard my mom teaching piano, and when I was about 3 was when I started to play and kind of mimic what she was doing. She was teaching some of her earlier students, or some of her younger students, and I didn't really take lessons, but I just copied, because I would hear my dad playing blues. He was in a blues band, and a country band, and a rock band. He actually spanned several different genres, which is where my love for multi-genre music comes from, I think. But my mom was a classical player, or still is a classical player, and teaches. So I would listen to what she was teaching her students all throughout my childhood, and then just go to the piano and try to play it, try to mimic it. So it started out by ear. And she says I was kind of writing my own little melodies and things when I was about 3 years old, but who knows what that actually was.
Well, at a certain point, you ended up playing with your father. I mean, if you can talk about that.
Yeah, man, you did your research. When I was 14, I joined the Slack Daddies, which is my dad's blues band. So we would play in these smoky bars in Chicago. This was before smoking was outlawed, and or in public places. And I remember I have these vivid memories actually of setting up on the pool table. We would put a wooden plank on the pool table and set up the standing keyboard rack on top of that plank on the pool table at this club called the Wooden Nickel. And I would play piano there. And then there was another station on some other bar, some other part of the bar, where we'd have the organ. So like the piano on one part and the organ on one part. And my dad and I would just switch off for different songs, like going to these different sort of pedestals in this smoky bar packed with people just enjoying blues music, playing this old school, really like soulful music for just hours. That was my first professional experience with music. So that's when I was 14 years old. We would go to a bunch of different bars around Chicago and play. But then my more like leaving the nest experience was when I was 15, and I got picked up by a group called Bucket Shop, by a guy named Mark Kavanaugh, who I still work with. He's one of the executive producers of Tiny Records. He's the person who really pushed me to do Tiny Room in the first place when I was touring with Halsey and thinking about these other paths that I might take. Yeah, he was a key factor in that. But he found me when I was 15 years old and invited me into his group, which was a jazz fusion group called Bucket Shop. And so we learned Chick Corea, a bunch of the Chick Corea tunes, Mahavishnu Orchestra tunes.
That's beautiful stuff, man.
Yeah. And and I just learned it all by ear. So, and that's what really started my love for jazz fusion and took me down that path, which eventually led to Spirit Fingers, because Spirit Fingers is informed by everything I was doing in that group.